Hello all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harrison. Each week, I'm joined by hairy, huggable, handsome homos who love film to discuss movies and sometimes dish a bit of film news. As usual, I'm joined by the two guys I love most when it comes to movies. Jim Pugliafico, welcome to the show.
Thanks, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And Will Lindis is here too. Welcome, Will.
No, I love you guys too.
Duh.
And I love our fans and anyone that's listening right now. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, guys, 147 episodes. Can you believe it?
Who do we have out there? If you're out there, message us.
Yeah, we love getting feedback. Like if you're listening live right now and you like what we're saying or don't like what we're saying or, are a spam bot and want to post gibberish, just post something in the chat window. We'd love to read it live on the air.
Jen B says, "Want to see my boobies? Vote for me in the modeling contest."
Okay, that's a legit statement. I don't think that's a bot. I think that's a real human being.
Do we want to see boobies? We could vote for her in this contest.
Are we talking boobies or are we talking movies? Because I think those are two totally different things.
Maybe she's saying movies and she has a cold.
Oh, maybe. Or maybe she thought this was the Movie Bears podcast and totally got it.
Well, that's our spin-off show.
We can make it the Movie Bears.
Oh,
my God.
Jim's showing his movies. I love it.
Shit, we are like 3 minutes into this episode. 3 minutes in, and we're circling.
Skin is showing.
Somewhere a few days from now, Adrian Charlie is blushing in his car.
I know.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
Don't worry, Adrian. We'll never make you flash your movies on this show.
Unless you want to. That's different. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh. Hey, so we have a fun show this week. Guys, we got to take our kicks where we can get them because we're reviewing M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. Big question mark on that one. Has M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong returned to stature? Or has he fallen on his face once again? You'll find out what we think. We're also going to dish up a little bit of movie news as well as our plugs. We got some fun stuff to dish, to talk about, to other words that mean sharing verbally. Are you guys ready to just dive in, to get started? Are we good to go?
I think so. I think we're in good shape for this.
All right.
We're gonna do some movie news, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think we are. I think we are. Let me do my bumper real quick. Let's dish a little movie news. Dun 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 dun. Someone else has to make the noise. There we go. Let's try it again. All right. We'll all do the little theme and then we'll do the noise as well.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Dun 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 dun
dun, dun. God, we were all over the fucking place.
All right, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Dun 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 dun.
Boy, we suck at that.
Yeah, we are not very we're not good at making our own bumpers. That's why we have audio files that we can.
That's why we have piracy.
What? We don't have piracy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Like we created that. I'm sure we did.
Oh my God, I totally did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I bought the dun 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 dun, and then I bought a projector sound effect. Don't accuse me of piracy. This podcast is legit.
That's what paid assets are for. Like
I'm not gonna argue.
That's why people make those assets and sell them.
I have you know I paid $3.99 for that projector sound effect, and I can produce a receipt if you really want it.
That's what licensing fees are for.
Anyway. So movie news. What fun is there to be had? So I'll kick things off, I guess. We've been talking for a while now about how much Jim and I liked the new Godzilla movie and how ambivalent, Will, you kind of were towards it. We were also talking a little bit about how cool it would be if this whole, new sort of King Kong revival that's going to be happening, Monster Island or Skull Island, right, could come about so that Godzilla and King Kong could have an epic throwdown. And the good news is, guys, Legendary has moved the new Skull Island movie from Universal to Warner Brothers, which has Godzilla, and it has been confirmed, is my understanding, that we are going to be getting a Godzilla versus King Kong movie in like 2019. So it's down the road. The Legendary wants to fucking make this happen. I don't know how they're going to do it because Godzilla's fucking huge and King Kong is nowhere near as big as Godzilla in the new films. But Jim, I got to ask, A, were you aware of this? And B, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you?
Yeah, I was aware of it. I got to tell you, I'm not super excited of all the things they could do with. I guess here's my problem. In today's movie, universe, whatever, everybody wants to make, I know Godzilla movies forever have been, this Godzilla versus this monster. Of course, we already had a Godzilla versus King Kong. To me, that's been done, but that doesn't mean it has to necessarily stop, because for Godzilla movies, they've had Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla a couple times, Godzilla versus Mothra a couple times.
Mothra!
But I'm not super excited. I want to see them establish Godzilla as a force that I think would be cool before they start talking about throwing him in with King Kong, and we haven't even established really a good King Kong, right? I mean, I don't know when the last King Kong movie we had, the Jack Black one maybe, a little while ago, which wasn't very good. I don't even know if it's going to be considered canon in that universe or not. But no, I'm not really excited about it. I'd rather see a few more standalone Godzilla movies before they start doing that.
Well, I mean, they're doing Godzilla 2 first, so at least there's that. But True. I'm surprised because, like, 2 months ago, you were like, how cool would that be? That would be awesome. And now I'm like, Jim, I have great news for you. And you're like, whatever.
It would be cool eventually. I just don't think it's a little too soon for me to start, like, really getting excited about that. And for one, like you said, there's this, how are they going to finagle this, like, massive size difference? Are they going to, like, magically shrink Godzilla down?
Well, I don't know how much size really matters, Jim. I mean,
size matters quite a bit. And there's one place in my life where that does matter, and that's King Kong versus Godzilla. How are they going to do it? They're going to, like, artificially enhance King Kong, like a mutated King Kong or something?
Well, I guess to be fair, we haven't seen, like, what the new King Kong's going to be, because it sounds like this is not going to be running off of the, I guess, the Jack Black canon. No. So, in theory, he could be a much larger one. And they'll be introducing him here, sort of like Godzilla v. Kong, Dawn of Justice type thing. Like we're getting ready to see our new Batman for the first time in a team-up movie. So it sounds like that's where they're going here. I don't know. I could be excited about this one. I want to see what that other Godzilla movie looks like first, because like you mentioned before, I was a little ambivalent towards the first one, and I feel like my excitement level is really going to be influenced very heavily by what they come back with in that second one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Brad, what do you think? I mean, you brought the news to us. What do you think?
I'm pumped. I read about this. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like, we've been watching, the old Godzilla movies, and of course we watched the old Godzilla versus King Kong film. And recently a friend posted on your wall like King Kong stuffing a tree down Godzilla's throat or something, right? And I'm like, dude, that's fucking awesome. I love it. Anyway, I'm excited to see what they do with it. My only fear, to be honest, is this King Kong kind of has some gravitas to him. It seems like they're going a little bit of the more serious route again. And
Emo Kong.
And so I guess I am a little bit worried that, King Kong versus Godzilla is going to be more spectacle rectical instead of deepy weepy. I don't know.
What?
I'm just throwing out terms out of my ass.
Well, spectacle rectical does sound like something that you throw out.
Wrecked, WRECKED.
Wrecked him, damn near killed him.
Anyway, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. It could be good. It could be bad. Who knows? I hope it's good. I want to see great stuff on the screen. They did a great job with Godzilla. I'm excited by a lot of the star power in the new Kong movie. Brie Larson, hello, is going to be in the new King Kong film. So pumped about that. What? You're shaking your? Oh my God! You're like the king of like
know me
not being excited about things that I think you should be excited about.
We get a great. Here they do this all the time. They take these wonderful actors that we have, wonderful dramatic actors who I want to see them do really cool, meaty, kind of noble stuff, and they throw them in a fucking monster movie or a fucking superhero movie. It kills me every time.
Why can't Brie Larson have some fucking fun?
It doesn't preclude them from doing that. Like,
I'm not saying they can't do it or they shouldn't do it. It's just not my preference, you know.
She came out with Short Term 12 in the same span where she came out with Spectacular Now and 21 Jump Street and Don John. She was in like a wide stretch of movies, very like financially and tonally different at the same time. Her doing like a big blockbuster movie isn't going to keep her from doing smaller movies, because a lot of actresses at her tier are probably pumping out like one big movie and like one smaller movie a year. So I think we'll still get to see Brie Larson doing some good stuff.
I think it's and the first thing that pops into my mind when I see these things is payday. I mean, and I'm not saying that these actors and actresses don't deserve a payday. It's just it's not the movie I'd prefer to see them. I'd prefer to see. I mean, look what they did with Bryan Cranston in Godzilla. A total waste, if you ask me.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He was he was probably the best character in the movie, and they still underused him. And I don't know. It seems like these actors and performances just get chewed up in a movie that big and kind of overshadowed.
Maybe.
I don't know.
And that's probably more a script issue than anything else, because I still think that, like, you know, we've seen Scarlett Johansson putting in some pretty memorable roles in the different Avengers tier movies while still pumping out like Under the Skin and Don John. Right. Like, it's not stopped her from having an extremely high quality output. So I guess I differ a bit there. Like, I think that this is a place where these actors can get some like face time, and the more face time they get, the more likely they are to pop up in more of those smaller films that we like. You know, like it's sort of like it's a thing that keeps feeding on itself. They get money, they get popularity, they're able and more willing to take risks on smaller things, and then vice versa.
Sometimes you got to do the fluff to pay for the cool stuff.
Wow, Brad.
My rhymes are not working tonight.
Wow.
But you know what? Let's move on to Will and forget Brad ever. No, let's go to Jim. Let's go to Jim. Let's go to Jim.
Let's go to me. All right. Here we go. All right. So my movie news has to do with soundtrack stuff. When Guardians of the Galaxy, you remember that movie?
What was that about?
Guardians of the Galaxy, a space dude. Remember a space dude and a bunch of animals?
Did that have that car Lord man?
Nah. It's Star-Lord, man.
Yeah. Anyway, when that came out last year, there was a soundtrack associated with it that became super popular. It was the second best-selling soundtrack of the year that year, behind Frozen, Disney's Frozen, which was a musical movie, basically. And it was called, I think it was an Awesome Mix Volume 1. I think it was called, right? Brad, you've got it. I think we've got it. And it's made up of like a bunch of excellent like 70s and 80s pop rock songs from the movie that were on Star-Lord's mixtape that he had from when his mom was when he was young. Let's just say that. And of course, it was announced that we'd get another mixtape in the next movie. Kind of like the same thing, and we're excited about that. But what we've got coming up is a Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy animated TV series, which, lo and behold, is going to have a new soundtrack with a compilation of about 12 rock pop songs from the 70s and 80s. And it's going to be called Cosmic Mix Volume 1. So keep your volume straight. But the movie ones are awesome. What did I say? Awesome Mix Volume 1. And from the animated series, it's going to be Cosmic Mix Volume 1 to start out with. And it sounds really cool. It's got some cool songs on there like "Drift Away" from Dobie Gray. I don't know if you know that one. "Give Me the Beat Boys" and "Free My Soul." It's got that one. "The Boys Are Back in Town" on it. "Shake Your Groove Thing" by Peaches and Herb. "Joy to the World," the Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog song by Three Dog Night. "Rocky Mountain Way," rock song by Joe Walsh. It's got some really cool songs on it. I'm looking forward to this one coming out. It's got actually a Hudson Brothers song on it that I don't recognize, but I listened to it a little bit today, and it sounds really cool. And the Hudson Brothers, do you guys remember the Hudson Brothers at all?
No.
There were three brothers that had like a TV variety show, and they recorded some music with some minor hits. But Bill Hudson is probably more known because he married Goldie Hawn and is Kate Hudson's dad. So he's got a song on there.
Wow.
And so it sounds really awesome. I think I'm going to go buy these songs up individually and make my own mixtape to start listening to that soundtrack, because the soundtrack is going to release in October. Who's this? Is that Bill Hudson?
That's Brett Hudson in his hairy-chested glory.
Brett Hudson, there you go.
I had to put it up on the screen for those of you who are listening in iTunes. You're missing out.
Where did you get that so quick?
Yeah.
I just Googled. It's funny. It pops up every time I talk. I just Googled the Hudson Brothers TV, and it was like the third image that popped up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's cool. Of course, it's a hairy-chested dude, which, Brad's like, I got to put that up.
That's the one that got my eye.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, okay, here. How about this one? Is this one better? Is that one better for you?
No.
No, you sure?
That's the Hudson Brothers.
Welcome, everyone, to the Google Image Search Podcast.
Yes. Google Image Search.
Anyway.
Where we bring up images and talk about them. But anyway, back to the soundtrack. Marvel's going to release it on October 16th through all the usual music outlets. I don't know. Brad, I know you dug the original soundtrack. I think this one's going to be cool too.
Yeah, I definitely love me some Awesome Mix Volume 1. In fact, if it were an actual cassette tape, I would have had to rebuy it 8 or 9 times at this point. But I got to tell you, I'm not excited for Cosmic Mix.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, the magic for me was seeing Guardians and sort of rediscovering these songs with Guardians as the conduit to it through the story. And now that I know that this Cosmic Mix is coming out and I already see the track listing and I know it's coming without the context of the show and what character moments they're associated with, in a way, it's like a spoiler, and I am a little bummed that it's public knowledge without the show even being out and on yet, right? Nothing has aired at this point, has it? Or has it started and maybe I've missed an episode?
No, I don't think the show starts, I think, at the end of this month, at the end of September. Yeah.
I guess I just wish the show would have come out first and then maybe they would have followed it up or at least waited a few episodes or something until after it started. But that's me. What do you think, Will?
I'm kind of excited about it. I'm excited to check out the show. I think I would be a little more in line with you, Brad, if these were either original songs or things along those lines. I think the fact that, and I totally get where you're coming from. I think the fact that it is a compilation of classic songs helps keep it out of that category a bit for me. This could be a mixtape that, hey Jim, make me a mix of 70 songs. All right, here you go. But I do get where you're coming from. I don't want to dismiss what you're saying. I'm just saying that for me personally, it probably isn't as impactful or negatively impactful as it could be. Yeah, I'll check it out. I like the music of the first one. The track listing that Jim just rattled off, and I hadn't looked at the track listing before, but the things that he just said sound pretty interesting to me. So, sounds like something I could see jamming out to.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they weave that into this animated show. It's kind of an interesting concept, I think, right? I mean, I guess in the first movie, weaving them into the movie was really well done the way they did it. I just don't know if it would have a similar kind of impact on an animated show, or you guys watch more animated shows than I do.
So for me, watching this show now, I'm constantly going to be like, okay, Is this when they're going to play Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog?
Mm-mm.
Okay, is this when they're going to... Drax and Rocket and Star-Lord are headed into a bar. Is this when we're going to hear the boys are back in town? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I guess for me, my brain works a little bit differently. Now that I have this foreknowledge, my brain is going to start trying to find the gaps where that's going to fill in, as opposed to me enjoying it sort of in a virginal bliss state, I guess, and being delighted when the songs randomly do pop up.
Do we know that the songs are going to randomly pop up? That's the other question I had. Or is this just sort of a promotional like soundtrack that's going to come out prior to the series? Like, because that is a totally different licensing, getting the a song for a movie versus a song for a show versus soundtrack. So, and I haven't looked into it, so I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, all it is, it's called the soundtrack, and I don't know how it's used, how it's going to be used on the show. And here I am, the TV show spoiler.
Well, it's okay. I mean, it's super cool that you're excited about it. I think that's great, and I think if I had seen the show first, I'd have been like, "Oh my God, foaming at the mouth, cosmic mix."
I understand. That's the way you work.
But I'm sure a lot of people will be excited. It's called a soundtrack. I mean, I can only believe that the tracks of sound are going to be used in the show. But I don't know. We'll see. But I'm really glad that you're excited about it. I'm glad that we're getting a Guardians animated show. I haven't seen a lot about it so far, aside from some screenshots and stuff. I know there have been some videos, but I've actually kind of avoided some of that promo material because I more just want to sit down and watch it. You know what I mean? Right. But I love the movie. I'm all about more Guardian stuff. I'm loving the Groot comic book that I've been reading. That's freaking brilliant. So I'm anxious to check out the show. I'm going to do my best to scrub these tracks from my brain and forget that I know they're coming.
There you go.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I just shit all over your movie news, Adam Jim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Hey guys, what are you excited about? Why not? No.
That's all right. You shit on my King Kong. I shit
Not
on
only
your
am I
Star
not,
Lord.
you just ruined my experience.
You ruined my ruining experience by ruining the experience or having it ruined for you. Ruined.
What
What you got, Will?
All right.
All right. Well, I've got one that hopefully is unruinable because it's not news of the future. It's news of the past. I wanted to do a quick update of a film festival that I had a chance to attend over the weekend. It's the Austin Gay and Lesbian International Film Festival, and I figured, hey, we're an LGBT film podcast, and I attended an LGBT film event. This kind of fits. Mm-hmm. It was a different experience having attended this versus South by Southwest and Fantastic Fest because this is all LGBT films surrounded by an extremely gay-friendly, mostly gay audience itself. I ended up seeing, I think, 13 films over the 4 days, which is a nice little stretch. And one thing I was really happy with, and I was not expecting whatsoever, I would say the average percentage of, like, films that really stayed with me, made me think, and kind of knocked me off my socks was probably higher than even this last year's South by Southwest. I only saw maybe a third of as many films, but there were a good 3 or 4 films that were just absolutely like home runs, and that's a high percentage. Mm-hmm. I won't go into all of them. I'm going to mention one here in a moment of note, just because it's the one that you guys will be most likely able to see. But I guess before that, I just want to mention a little bit more about the festival itself. That was one thing that was of note for me. I had a chance to be on the programming committee for this one, which means that I helped screen some of the films beforehand, and I learned a lot from that experience. Through the process, I was worried what the final lineup was going to be like, because you don't realize when you're doing the screening for these types of things the number of not good films or the number of films that don't really fit the theme. Like there were films that I got that were maybe had one background gay character and they submitted it to our film festival, and no. So going into it, only one of the films that I had approved made it to the final lineup. So going into it, I had no idea what it was going to look like, and I was pleasantly surprised. The programming director did a fantastic job of putting things together and really blew me out of the water. The The movie I wanted to mention is the only one of these that I think you guys will have a chance to see. Maybe there's a couple of others, but it's this movie called Nasty Baby. It has it played it. It's a film that played at Sundance. It apparently had some controversy because TIFF. It tried to play at last year's Toronto International Film Festival, and it got I guess there was some controversy over them wanting them to change part of the movie, and they said no, so they just held it for Sundance. But it stars Kristen Wiig, has Aaliyah Shawkat. It also has I don't know if you guys. Oh, she is in everything these days. Anything that's kind of indie-ish. It also has Tunde Adebimpe. He's the dude from the band TV on the Radio. He was in Seven Chinese Brothers. I think some of us saw that at South by Southwest this last year. Anyways, it's just a neat little film about these hipsters dealing with this gay couple and their friend Kristen Wiig, and they're all trying to conceive a baby together because she wants a baby, they want a baby, and so it has some really neat sort of themes based on like adoption versus fertilizing your friend, and different things. It has some really interesting twists. It's not a film for everyone because it goes into some kind of crazy territory, but it is one that I absolutely freaking loved. And it's again the film from the festival that I think it's coming out. I believe later this year. It's coming into theaters October 23rd. So this is one that like our listeners will be able to listen to be able to see at least in some areas within the next month. Anyways, I had a blast at this, and the last thing I really have to say about this is please support local film festivals. Look for things in your area, especially things that are community-driven, whether they be LGBT or not. If something's happening, the tickets are usually much cheaper than like a South by Southwest or a big film festival. They only take a couple days out of your weekend, and you get exposed to some amazing films by some great up-and-coming filmmakers. So please support local film.
Will, did you find that it was well attended, the festival?
It was pretty well attended. It certainly wasn't like
because it's a niche festival, right?
It is a niche festival, and certainly limited to one town. So you don't have as many people like with South by Southwest. We had people coming from other countries to attend it with us.
Yeah.
And certainly for this one, this festival was limited to 2 screens as opposed to the 10 screens that were at South by Southwest. But certainly those screenings were pretty filled up. We did have some people, like I met a guy from I want to say he's from Colorado, and we were talking about movies. There was a little contingent for an HIV documentary where all of the participants and all of the filmmakers were from Palm Springs, and so it was great catching up with those guys.
Was that Desert Migration?
That was Desert Migration.
So Stephen Heslin from Movie Risk Podcast TV actually worked on that film in an editing capacity. Yeah, you totally need to touch base with him and let him know that you got to see that movie. He said he hasn't gotten paid yet for it, but he did a ton of work.
Surprised you missed his name in the credits, Will.
Yeah, well, I did miss his name in the credits, but yeah, I mean, to his credit, then, and I'm totally not just sucking kneecaps on this one, but it was my favorite documentary that I'd seen. So, it was beautifully shot. I'm all about a documentary that has a theme. Like you can make a good like talking head documentary about anything and it'd be okay subject matter wise. But this one has a beautiful like all the shots at the beginning of the documentary are based in the morning, and then you see things kind of throughout the day, and they close out with shots at night. So it's a day in the life, and it's actually shot as such. Gorgeous, very ethereal experience. Like I found that's one where you just kind of let the stories just wash over you. So yeah, I didn't know he was working on that. It is a really freaking small world, but yeah, it was a really cool movie. Desert Migration.
Sweet. Well, Stephen Heslin, if you are coming back and listening to the show later this week, because I'm going to tell you tomorrow when we do MBP TV about this, you can hear Will's thoughts.
Yeah, that's awesome. It is a small gay world.
It's a small, small world. There are lots of
it's good to see we can, talk about one of our own doing some movie stuff.
It really is. It really is. And And it's also fun because I met, I've got a friend who did some programming with me on this, and he's starting his own documentary as well. He's just now started the process, and so hopefully within the next year or two he'll be presenting it at this or other festivals as well. So I think there's a lot of room for gay films that aren't just going into this. I had this I guess preconceived notion of gay film. I think a lot of times you're kind of used to the same story, the same through line of just I want to be in love. I want to fall in love with this guy, but I don't know if he wants me or not. And you kind of expect that to be just kind of like the gay film experience. And it was so nice to see films that were. I saw lesbian comedy about S&M. I saw documentaries about transgendered female to male. I saw one about a transgendered male to female. I saw the Desert Migration, HIV themed documentary. I saw a great bro comedy about these three straight guys dealing with their friend that's just recently come out and is trying to fit in both their world and gay world. So it was
part of your world.
There's such variety, and I can't impress upon I know there are some people who have a preconceived notion of gay film being a very specific way, but please check out an LGBT film festival once near you, because there is such a stunning variety of just options out there.
Great.
Indeed. Well, glad you had a good time. Glad you saw some great film. And definitely I hope that we get a chance to see Desert Migration soon. I don't know if it's going to come here for our film festival. At this point, I think it's probably too late, right? Because Jim, isn't our LBGTA plus QQ whatever?
I don't know the schedule. I don't have to talk about it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the schedule. Our contacts that used to work at
they're
no longer here. So
well, they may have submitted too. Desert Migration submitted to us a couple months ago, and so it's been on the so it's possible they've already submitted to your film festival or other festivals.
Could be. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
But good stuff, guys. Well, hey, we are 40 minutes in, and we still have a movie to talk about. What are we feeling? Are we ready to switch tracks a little bit?
Yeah.
I think we should visit that topic.
Are we ready to pull the lid off of the M. Night Shyamalan discussion? All right. Then let's do it. So if you are listening live or digital tape delay, whatever way you choose to enjoy the show, this is where we give you a little heads up. We are going to discuss the movie spoiler free. To kick things off, we'll give you some advice on whether we think you should see the movie, as well as the basic premise, which you would get from watching the trailer anyway. And then we'll give plenty of warning before we go into Spoiler Town. So if you've not yet seen the movie, no worries. Hang on. You can listen to us talk about it and not have your experience spoiled. But real quick, we just got a live picture of Paul eating M&Ms in the dark watching our podcast.
Yay, Paul! I got the chance to last weekend hang out with him some at an event here in town. Paul's great people.
There you go.
Yay, Paul!
Little hard to see. It's a little dark. But hi, Paul. We love you. We love you. Awesome.
Those are what flavor M&Ms with that? It's the red. What's the red?
It looks like they're peanut with.
No, it's not regular peanut. I don't know what it is.
I think I see the word peanut under his.
It looks like I see both yellow and red. So
yeah,
it's like peanut and peanut butter. Like it's Paul, please send us. We're dying to know what flavor M&Ms you are. So send us a note. Let us know.
Yes. Let us know what M&Ms you were eating. In the meantime, here comes our discussion of M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. And I just have to say, booyah! They're peanut M&Ms. I was right. Paul just messaged. What?
Well, you were right.
Oh, you should write an indulgent rap song about how right you were.
I totally should write that song all about Paul and his peanuts and dog. Anyway, Oh my God! Let's talk about this movie. Will, why don't you give us the basic setup and your preliminary thoughts, and we'll go from there.
So first of all, yeah, so this is going to be one where we're going to have to be extremely careful in the pre-spoiler section. You know, some films, you know, certain documentaries or some very straightforward films, you can kind of get away with talking about them without spoiling them. But hey, this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. He has a reputation for doing certain things in his film, and we are going to be very cautious about that here. So yeah, the visit, the mini synopsis. You've got these two kids. And they one's like 15, one's 13, and their mother, she's a single mother. She's going off on a cruise with her, I guess, new boyfriend or whatever. And after finding out that she's had an estranged relationship with her parents, decides to send those two kids to spend a week with those grandparents, just to kind of bridge that gap. And that's as much as I'm going to say synopsis-wise. In terms of whether or not I enjoyed this movie, I think I've got to actually kind of roll it back a little bit and talk about M. Night Shyamalan as a whole, because I don't.
There we go.
Well, I think.
No, I know.
Yeah,
we knew we were going to get into this.
Yeah, because I think that there are some filmmakers who you can't separate from their work. There's a certain stigma or a certain whatever attached to them, and in some ways you have to either distance yourself from that or you have to roll into it. It's like seeing a new Michael Bay movie. You kind of have to go into it knowing that it's a Michael Bay movie and all the things that come along with it. And I personally consider myself a bit of an M. Night Shyamalan apologist. So I'm going to get that out of the way first. I think that he's made some of his films are some of my absolute favorite films of all time, including The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, which the latter of which, Unbreakable, I think still holds as my favorite of his works, and one that would be extremely fitting whether it came out 15 years ago or if it came out in today's like superhero-laden backdrop. He's had some missteps, but I think that a lot of those are a little overblown. I think it became popular along the way to kind of hate on M. Night Shyamalan because it was popular to hate on M. Night Shyamalan. Don't get me wrong, The Last Airbender was an absolutely atrocious movie and deserves to burn in a fire. But I think that some of his other movies are probably, it's kind of over-exaggerated how bad they are. So anyways, I go into this movie a little bit different than other people, and that's what I wanted to get to. I think a lot of people came into this thinking, like, I want this to be the M. Night Shyamalan movie that turns things around for him. And for me, it's more just, I want to see whether or not he falls into the same traps he did with The Village and Lady in the Water, which is a good movie that's a little bit weighted down by over-narration and over-explaining what's happening, or if this is just a solid like 1-2 punch like his earlier films. For me, it's somewhere in between. This is a pretty decent but not great film. This movie is, genre-wise, it's important to note that it's as much as it's kind of a horror movie, this is M. Night Shyamalan, it's fair to say that, it's also a comedy. And when you look at it as a film that's kind of like 50-50 or maybe even 60-40 between those two categories, it really holds up well. There's a couple of parts where it maybe switches tone a little bit more than I would have liked, but by and large, the creepy stuff works, the funny stuff works. I thought the child actors... once I got used to their quirks, and their quirks are a bit off-putting at first, but once I got used to their quirks, I actually found those actors to be quite competent, quite able to portray everything that they were supposed to. This is probably not a film for everyone. You have to really enjoy like a really solid down-in-the-trenches horror comedy to probably like this one. But if you're someone like me who just eats this genre stuff alive, I think you'll enjoy this movie, and I would recommend you go check it out. But that's just me. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say, though.
So, yeah. So I will go on record saying I also love The Sixth Sense. I was not actually Unbreakable's biggest fan. Kind of hated that movie, actually. So for me, my history, I know, Will, you're making weird faces at me, but I kind of thought it was stupid. And like millions of people are burning me in effigy right now. Like they're tearing down their Brad statues and lighting them on fire. Actually, if you have Brad statues, that's really nice of you. That's really cool.
Really fucked up too.
But now it's a little weird. But so here's the thing. I think he kind of gets a bad rap too. I think, we had that big twist from The Sixth Sense, right? And it set the world on fire. And he sort of got this reputation, right, for being master of the twist. And it's like, I don't know how you can expect someone to constantly one-up themselves, twist after twist
playing
after
the
twist,
same card all the time.
Playing the same card over and over and over again, right? I refuse to watch The Last Airbender because I fucking love that animated series, and I heard how awful of a movie it is. So
it's as bad as you've heard.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably worse because you know me, I'm the crotchety old man of the Movie Bears podcast, and I tend to be kind of negative sometimes. Get off my sky bison, M. Night Shyamalan. Yep,
we'll get into ageist shit later. Yeah.
My gosh. Okay. Well, whatever. But actually, going into this movie, I've been talking 5 minutes and haven't said jack shit about the film. I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. I think it's like a Friday or Saturday night date movie. It's interesting. It's entertaining. I think I kind of saw the end coming though, from a mile away, and so I'm trying to divest myself of the whole there's going to be a big twist thing going into the film. It's like I know there's got to be a twist, but for me, I mean, even though I wasn't super surprised by it, doesn't mean it's bad. I know a lot of people who saw this movie over the weekend who really enjoyed it. A lot of people are saying M. Night Shyamalan has returned to form, to his former stature. I don't know if that's true or not. I guess you have to make that decision for yourself. But I would say this one's definitely a C. I mean, it's a C for me in terms of a letter grade, but I would say it's probably a C for you in terms of go out, check it out. Make your own opinion. Don't just take what you hear at the water cooler of Facebook and jump on the burning things in effigy front. Make that decision for yourself. Spend $6 to go see it on a Sunday afternoon or something. I don't know. I do have to say I hated the child actors. Hated them. The boy, I wanted to lift him up with my hand by his throat and just squeeze the life out of him until his eyes rolled back in the back of his head and popped.
Wow, we have a child killer on our hands.
He was awful. He was awful. He was really bad. The girl, she was okay, but I tell you what, I really, really hated her whole look what a sophisticated 14-year-old I am. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I hope you're super sophisticated in a, dark, dank, Saw world-laden, infested, putrid bug pit of doom somewhere.
Oh my God!
I know. Anyway, but I like the cinematography in this movie. I like the old folks in this movie. I thought there were some cool things that were done there. I grew up partially on a farm in farm country, and so it was kind of neat for me in a way. I was sort of seeing some parallels, not to the crap from M. Night Shyamalan twist stuff.
You say crap?
Just fields of snow slowly filling up at night or during the day, or going out to the shed or the barn. I was kind of having some flashbacks, but that stuff started getting weird, and I'm like, boy, I'm glad I never lived on that farm. But anyway, that's all right. That's fine. Jim, what about you?
Yeah, and I'm glad that none of us are kind of like an M. Night Shyamalan basher society here, members, because the guy's made good movies. His first 3 or 4, I think, all the way up through The Village. For me, I kind of like The Village. I kind of like Signs. Of course, I didn't see Unbreakable, Will, so it's on my list. I hear more people talking about it the last few weeks because of this movie coming out. Obviously, Brad doesn't like it very much. You liked it. So I kind of want to see where I fall on it. I've heard good things about it in the past. But yeah, I thought right up until kind of like The Village, he's made pretty good movies. I hate that he gets this stigma that he's the guy who has to put big twists in his movie. I think that puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on the narrative. I have no idea what it does to him as a director, but as a movie goes, it's right off the bat you're very defensive about, and you're trying to overanalyze the movie about what's the twist and where's it coming from. It's almost to the point where if you made a movie without a twist now, it would be the twist that it didn't have a twist. You know what I mean? Like have a movie that's like obviously setting you up for a twist that never comes. That would be cool. But yeah, this movie, I'm surprised he went the found footage angle for this movie, because to me there's nothing in the narrative of this movie that says it's got to be a found footage movie. This could have just as easily worked, and maybe even worked better, if it wasn't a found footage movie and it was just a movie about these two kids going out to visit their grandparents' farm, and things start to go a little weird. I think it could have been just as suspenseful and weird and stuff without the found footage thing. I don't think that added anything to the movie. I also think that this kind of came across to me as not a movie from a very established, experienced filmmaker. This almost came across to me kind of like an indie movie from kind of like a first-time director. I'm not saying it was incompetent or anything like that. I'm just saying it had that feel of an indie movie, and I think that's probably what happens when you've been given big budget movies and they haven't done well. You kind of have to kind of reset back to kind of maybe a smaller movie, and I think that was a smart move here. I think I'm kind of in line with you guys where this wasn't a great movie. I would say it was barely a good movie for me. There were some things about it that worked. There was some creepy stuff in this movie. We'll get into it in spoilers that I think worked pretty well. There was some of the comedy worked, but I got to say that Brad, I'm with you, and I don't have with these two child characters. To me, it wasn't the actors that I really hated, because I don't know. I mean, they could be very, very good actors. I just think the characterizations were a little bit off. I think there's something we could talk about the boy character in spoilers. It might be a spoiler to come out and say what his very irritating pastime was, and then the girl, of course. Her thing was she came across as very, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretentious, I guess. Yeah. Like, look at me, I'm beyond my years as a filmmaker, and kind of a few winks to the audience about, see, I know what depth of field is, and I know, blah blah, and the boy knows what mise en scène is, and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but I just don't buy it. I'm not buying it at all. Right. And so that really did bother me. Other than that, I think it's right around a C movie for me. Not a strong recommendation, but I think it's fine, given what's in the Cineplexes right now. Today, like this week, until we start getting past this weekend and a little bit more. I think this could be a fun date night movie, also. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of middle of the road for me. A mild recommendation. That's pretty much all I can give it. And we could talk about, M. Night Shyamalan and all that stuff, but I think we've tackled a lot of it already. But
about those kids, I kind of feel like I really like the actors, and I think the kids were intentionally, at least to me, kind of the way an actual 13 and 15-year-old kids can be. Like, both of them put on airs. Both of them were, had their little foibles. She was someone who was trying to be more worldly than she was. He was trying to be more tough and more
cool,
more cool than he was. And the thing that I liked so much about it is kids at that age are like that. Like, it's they will put on these pumped up airs. And what I liked about this movie is during certain scenes, and we can talk about what those are when we get to spoilers. You got to see that strip away, and you got to see them actually, who they were when they weren't putting on those airs. So I think that's why I liked these characters so much. Not that they were 100% likable all the time, but I think they felt very authentic, both in their like pompousness and their just like kind of stripped away realism. And I think the actors did a good job of portraying that.
If you have kids like that in real life, keep them at home. Nobody has time for that shit.
Everyone has kids like that. Everyone's kids are little assholes sometimes. Yeah, everyone's kids thinks that there's a certain age, and it's called teenage years. Where,
Adolescence.
yeah, once you hit your teens, you think that you're, oh, I'm better than my parents. I'm smarter than them. I'm tougher, and not and to different degrees. But I think that's certainly something that happens, and I appreciated how it was portrayed here.
I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe it didn't work, counter-work the same way it did for you, Will, as it did for me. I actually didn't care what happened to these kids. I didn't care.
Oh, no.
No, really.
Yeah.
I think you want a little bit of empathy for the kids, and there were some flashes of it. Like there were some scenes we'll get into in spoilers.
Right.
But I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of the quieter, more where it looked like maybe you were getting some depth of character.
Right.
And we'll talk about it because I think they cheaped out on some of that stuff. But there were some flashes of that where I'm like, oh, if there was a little bit more of that, maybe I would have cared a little more. And there was something that happened late in the film that most of the audience was grossed out at, and I was cheering.
I know exactly what you're talking
I know
about.
what you're talking about.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think we can say we'll talk about it later any more times.
Yeah,
than we
I think
have,
we just
so.
need to get into spoilers.
Yeah, I think it's time to just rip the pull tabs off and just do it.
I need to go clean the oven.
So spoilers are officially fair game for The Visit. If you are still listening, you do so at your own peril. If you're listening in digital tape delay, feel free to refer to that handy show note, time index, whatever you call it, that Jim puts together, and skip ahead to plugs. If you're watching live, go ahead, step away, make a sandwich, eat some ice cream, eat some peanut M&Ms. I know my M&Ms. I'm a fat guy. What can I say? And then come back. But spoilers are officially fair game. So one thing I want to say, and we mentioned this whole found footage thing. I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Is it found footage because she's making a documentary, right? So it's not really. I mean, well, maybe it is. I don't know. Does that count as found footage?
It's adjacent to found footage.
It's in that genre. It's not specifically found footage.
It's all shot the way that a found footage film is, but there are certain edited things in as if this were an actual, she took the footage and then she edited it together. We're in spoilers, so we can say, yeah, so she makes it through the movie to be able to chop all of this up and turn it into a class project or her own film or something like that. And that's why you even have something that you never see in an actual found footage movie, such as cutaway shots where it says Sunday morning, Friday morning, things like that.
Right.
So yeah, it plays like a weird mix between. It's shot like a found footage movie, but it's edited together like a fake documentary or something like that.
Yeah. So this is the movie that does for Depends what Killer Joe did for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh goodness!
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was pretty gross.
So just to back up what I was talking about, what the kid does, obviously in the movie, right off the bat, is he thinks he's a budding rap star, right? And he does this rap singing. There's an extended sequence in the front of the movie, which I thought went on a bit too long. What was his rap name? He kept referring to himself in the third person as something Diamond something. I forget what the name is.
Yeah, I forget off the top of my head.
Yeah, but he kept referring to himself, and I'm like, stop saying that name because I don't know. It just felt really weird. Yeah, I don't know. And she was the precocious filmmaker, semi-serious most of the time. One of the things I wanted to call out was there was moments in the film where they interviewed each other, which I thought were pretty good, except there was one story that the boy told about his experience playing football and what happened to him playing football. And as soon as he started talking about it, you're like, we are going to see this in a scene later in the movie. And sure enough,
right.
A half hour later, boom, there he is in the middle of the action, and this stuff happens to him. Where he talks about freezing instead of making an important tackle. He talks about freezing in the middle of the field, not being able to do anything.
Right.
Kind of neurological reaction that he has in stress situations, and that sure enough came out later.
It wasn't just that moment, right? We also had the reverse. He's interviewing her, and he's like, I noticed that you never look in the mirror. Why is that? Why do you never look in the mirror? And then half an hour later, she's at the mirror in the dark with the camera and the crazy lady behind her. And she
just felt
look up in the mirror.
And I loved it.
Well, because it was great. It worked in the moment, but then later on when you're like, okay, now if they could just leave that alone, that's a nice little character moment,
right?
And it doesn't have to be used as a plot device later. And it was, and it cheapened it for me a little bit.
I disagree. I feel like what it gave each of the characters was a crucible they had to go through. His having to do with his inability to act when in a high-stress moment, and hers having to be with that like sense of like, you know, viewing self in mirror. So I like that because what it gave us was it gave us character development in a movie that was really more focused on like the comedy and the weird and the creepiness, but it gave us a through line, and that's something that Shyamalan does a fantastic job of. Even movies like Signs, you know, like the thing that happens at the end of Signs, just so I don't avoid spoiling it. It's something that while you see it coming a mile away, I think that in this case we already have like a twist. We already have something else that we're kind of focused on. So I don't mind that the character development has a through line, has a definite point A to point B. I appreciated it actually. It made me like those characters a little bit more because I got to see where they were before versus where they are now.
Yeah, and I have no problem with each character going through a crucible, you know, to prove themselves. But it doesn't have to be the movie telling me, oh, this character's crucible is this. So now wait for them to have to go through it, because then you'll know when they go through it. I guess I don't have to be led by the nose like that. It feels a little weird.
So Jim, would it have worked better for you if they didn't interview each other and that's when the moments came out? If it was more of like a conversational thing, like maybe they're telling stories to Nana and Pop Pop.
I don't know.
He's telling them about how he froze at the game or something. Would that be less of a like directive setup and more of an incidental setup for it, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, I liked those moments when they happened. I mean, I like those moments when they were talking about them and how it happened. But then later on, it's kind of like they you know, like I said, use that as you know, a plot device to further the story, and it's just such a I don't know, what can I say? It lended to the predictability of it all, I guess.
Right. So I guess for me, I like those moments too, Will. I think, you know, they're character defining. You get to see them make forward progress, right, in their growth. But Jim, I also see where you're coming from in that it's so telegraphed up front, right? That when it happens, like when he's just standing there getting the shitty, bloody diaper smeared all over his face, right, and he's not moving, it's like, oh, okay, he's frozen. But then my next immediate thought is, oh, but okay, it's coming. He's going to become unfrozen and save the day at a pivotal moment. I don't know how you walk that line, to be honest. I'm trying to think about how you can kind of have your shitty diaper and eat it too. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know if it is possible to do that in a way that hits both things. I think I
don't know. I guess it just felt so obvious to me that I'm not a script writer. I just don't know if it can be done a lot more elegantly. I'm sure other movies have done it. None just pop into mind right now. Maybe I probably should have come up with some examples, but this one just didn't feel, I don't know, pleasant to me, I guess.
Yeah, and regarding kind of the predictability of this one, I think I liked the fact that it was like there was definitely a twist ending to this one, but it was one that the clues were hidden fairly early on and fairly obviously. So he was able to have like horror movies tend to have a twist or a big reveal, regardless of whether it's Shyamalan or not. And I like the fact that he made one that was guessable, that it wasn't going to be one of those like twist for twist sake type things. I think that at certain points where they're talking about like, oh, I know where that place is. whatever the name of what ended up being the psychiatric place. You kind of guess, or at least I did. It's like, oh, they're probably this.
Yeah.
They're probably we're in spoilers. I hate tap dancing around it. That they're probably escaped mental patients. I had that thought fairly early on.
Right.
And it ended up being the case, and I liked it. I appreciated it. I liked the fact that it wasn't just one thing all the way through, and then just all of a sudden crazy twist. I think that's why, going back to those two kids, why their crucibles worked so well for me. I feel like this is a movie that was less about the twist and more about the journey, which is a cliche thing to say, but this was one where you got to follow each of the characters' stories and their, and what their major conflict was, at the same time as what's going on with their grandparents, and you just got to kind of experience the creep, experience how they get through it. I appreciated that, and I appreciate it kind of more and more the more I think about it too. It's just one of those films where I think this was very sharply done, and I think this is going to be one that when I revisit it again, I'm probably going to pick up on other things that were telegraphed at some point in that climactic scene that I'm going to enjoy just as well. I like the fact that I think second viewing will give me even more.
Yeah. One of the things that kind of the whole climax and stuff came right at the end, and the reveal, I guess the twist reveal to the audience came right at the end of the movie. I was listening to our friend Michael on War Machine versus Warhorse, and an interesting take he had was, what if they had let the twist out very early in the story? That would have been a totally different, like the audience was in on it, but the kids were not, and it might have made it even more of a horror movie. I don't know. It definitely would, I think, change the whole tone of the movie. But that's kind of just a what if thing. I did think there were a couple of cheap jump scares in this one. There was one, the hidden camera on the mantle, whatever, in the living room. Yeah, that's like the one on the one you see on YouTube all the time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, watch this countryside scene. Bah!
And there was a second one too, where she's hiding inside of like the kitchen pantry or whatever it is, and jumps out at him. Yeah.
But the scarier scenes where, the kids are locked in the room, they're hearing weird noises outside the room, you don't know what the fuck is happening outside. Those are pretty cool. I thought the hide and seek under the house was pretty effective.
Yeah.
I did too. I did too, but I gotta tell you, that scene, and I never get motion sick in these movies. Like, I'm usually the guy laughing at other people who are getting motion sick, because apparently I'm a terrible asshole with a cold black heart. But I was getting motion sick. Like, I had to sit back and close my eyes and just like not look for a little bit, because I felt like I was gonna hurl into the popcorn. So I don't know. Maybe it was a little too much of that. Remember earlier when I said this one's definitely a go see? Well, if you get motion sick very easily with these movies, maybe you should avoid it. But it was a good scene. It was scary. I agree.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. That's, like I said, pretty. I don't know what else we can say about it. If you guys have anything.
I think that I didn't notice the motion sick as much. I didn't get personally motion sick, but there were a couple of times where I was trying to get used to the camera itself. I do agree. Like, as much as I enjoyed this movie, those two jump scares did. I think a good, well-timed, well-used jump scare is not the worst thing. I think some people immediately equate it with bad horror. And I think it is used often in bad horror, but I think it can be effective in some places. I do think that the two jump scares here were not effective, because this film was not about blatant scares. This film was about that creepiness factor. Like when we reviewed Creep a few weeks ago, like this is one where it's less about being scared by one individual moment and more just this compounding of uncomfortable things until the climax happens. And I think those jump scares actually let out some of the tension in a way that because when you get a jump scare, you do that.
Right.
Oh my God,
right.
And I think it deflated the tension in ways that I think weren't really warranted. I would have liked for them to have cut those out. I would have liked for them to have, as much as I loved the kid characters, I could have done with a little less of the rapping itself. I get why they did it, and I don't think I had as big of a problem as you guys did, but I still think it was probably a little overutilized, and I could have I could have scaled that one back just a hair. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we get on to this movie's really big problem, and that's ageism?
Why not?
What?
The way this movie portrays old people is downright shameful. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, like,
if you think about it, don't think about it too long though, because you'll start coming up with shit that they actually do.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So having had grandparents and I have elderly friends and as you get older, things do start going wrong. My grandmother suffered really badly from dementia, and she would talk to herself, or she would get lost reliving these memories and tell the same stories over and over and over again. Sometimes she'd tell you a story, and a minute later she'd tell the same story and have no memory that she did it. So for me, in a way, like, as this movie is ramping up, you know what I mean? It's interesting to me. It's like, what? This could happen. Like, this kind of stuff does happen to old people. My grandfather had Alzheimer's, and God bless him, but he would have accidents wetting his pants, and he would hide his pants out in the barn. And that's one of the reasons why when, the kid follows Grandpa in there and we see the dirty diapers, my heart kind of broke a little bit, because I'm thinking about going in the barn and finding Grandpa's coveralls, what I mean, and having to show my grandma. So I actually appreciated some of those things. Obviously, it takes it to new crazy heights, right? Because they're actually mental patients and stuff. But I don't know. I thought some of that was actually well done. I don't think it's ageist. Maybe you're joking. I don't know.
I'm mostly joking. It was just funny. There was one scene where the kids are trying to explain how crazy the grandparents are, and the mother's like, "Oh no, don't worry, they're just old." And I'm like,
and I think that when you say ageist, I think that's not 100% unfair. I don't think it's as much like a criticism against the movie as it plays into that a little bit. When you're a kid, the things that go on with older people can be terrifying, can be gross, can be confusing. You don't get why those things happen, or maybe you do, but it's still like uncomfortable. It doesn't fit into your worldview. It's not where you're quite at yet. And when you talk to adults, oftentimes the explanations are quite dismissive. That's just how old people are. So certainly, like, I think in one lens you can look at it as ageist, but I think also you can look at it as an accurate reflection of how people are ageist around kids. Are ageist around grandparents and the elderly, and then finding the horror moments within that. I don't know necessarily the point I'm trying to make there, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, yes, it's yes, there's some ageism there, but I think it's not as much the film being ageist as much as it's kind of playing with those themes.
Right. Yeah. Again, I mostly just brought it up, kidding, but there could be some threads to pull on there, and certainly have a discussion around.
Yeah, definitely.
Indeed. Well, guys, I don't know that we have much else to say necessarily, but I do want to weigh in real quick. For you guys, has M. Night Shyamalan redeemed himself a bit compared to previous films? Do you think we get to say that now, or what's your feeling?
Yeah, let's do that. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some really weird stuff on Twitter and stuff this last week when this movie started coming out. Like, oh my God, this is his best movie since whatever, either Unbreakable or The Sixth Sense, and return to form, blah 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 blah. I don't know if it's a full return to form. I think this is certainly a step in the right direction for me. I hope this is something. Again, I'm not a guy who would hate on M. Night Shyamalan just because he had 3 or 4 bad movies in a row. I didn't see The Last Airbender because I'm just not interested in that type of movie. I still want to see, I didn't see Lady in the Water. I did see The Happening, though, which I thought wasn't a good movie. I know it's been riff-tracked, but I didn't think it was like the worst movie I ever saw. It was kind of dull for a horror movie, but certainly not enough to get somebody that kind of ire. So, again, I think this movie is probably a positive step, maybe toward him doing some other cool stuff, and that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping he can keep it going in a positive direction.
Yeah, I think that one of the problems we run into is this is a guy who not his first film, but I guess the film that most people recognize as his first film was The Sixth Sense, which is a movie that Oscar nomination, etc., and then goes straight into Unbreakable, a film that has recently regained a lot of popularity as kind of like as a sleeper hit, and I think that when you compare it to those two movies, it is not, this is not an Oscar caliber like Picture of the Year type movie, but I think it's unfair to hold that as your only barometer. Like if this isn't like the movie of the year, then this is a bad movie. I think that we really we put M. Night Shyamalan in this box because he did After Earth, because he did After Airbender, some legitimately bad movies. I think we lump all of his filmmaking into there. But really, Signs was quite good. The Village, Lady in the Water, I think are over criticized. I think they both have some solid aspects to them. They have some narrative missteps. Even The Happening is it's his version of like a B-rated an R-rated B film. And I think that when you look at it through that lens, it's actually pretty decent, aside from some bad Mark Wahlberg acting, which he is pretty bad in that. And that's an unfortunate aspect of it. But yeah, when you say is this a return to form, I think that that's kind of hyper sensationalism. I think that it's one of those things where this is a solid film. He has several solid films under his belt. He has several bad films under his belt. I'm not going to compare this to his previous films. I'm just going to compare it to what it is. It's a film I enjoyed as a horror comedy fan. I think this one did justice by me. So even taking the rest of his catalog out of the picture, I enjoyed this movie.
Awesome. Hey, guys, real quick, we have a live comment from Sid from Houston, Texas. Hey, Sid.
Hey, Sid.
This is a great episode, guys. Sid, we're so glad to have you watching with us live. Glad you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed The Visit as well. I was just looking at your Facebook page, and I see you went to see it. And that reminds me, looking at Sid's Facebook page, the poster for this movie, that's the last thing I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. That whole, like,
cross-stitch thing?
I loved it. That was awesome. That was so good.
The bloody fingerprints.
Grandma's rules. Like,
right.
Have you ever seen a poster like that with, like, done in cross-stitch?
No, I've never seen one before, and it really stood out at me. And
think of the money they saved.
But every poster is hand cross-stitched. It's not paper.
Oh my God! Yeah.
That would be crazy. Anyway, I just one of the last things I want to say about this movie is I like how it took me from really loving Nana to like really being afraid for Nana to like being really afraid of Nana.
Yeah.
And I think there's certain moments where you think the obvious is coming, right? Like she's like, "Oh dear, why don't you climb into the oven and clean it for Nana? Go all the way in, dear. Go all the way in." And you're like, "Oh, she's gonna fucking slam her in and turn on the oven and walk away." But she didn't the first time.
No.
And then the second time she didn't turn it on either. She just closed it so she could clean it. Right? Her goal wasn't to burn her in the oven. She wanted to drown her in the well. That's what they were going to do with them, so that they could like get their feeding levels up or whatever, and then go meet the aliens like at the bottom of the lake that she, sacrificed her kids to. But I just love like It's totally my inner and outer fat person, I guess. But I love how she like solves everything with food. She's like, "Are you guys doing okay here? I made you some cheddar biscuits."
And
You know.
doesn't that actually happen?
Yes.
That happens with my
totally.
grandmother. My grandmother is amazing at just like, this is why I'm fat type stuff. Like, oh, well, here, let me make this. Why don't you come visit? I'm going to make that favorite dish you like.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, while you're here, I also picked these up at the store. They're these fantastic snacks. Why don't you have some of these? And also, I made cookies. And I know that there are some people who it's not the only way that they show love, but it's part of like how they relate to family. It's like I'm a caretaker. I provide for you. This is something I made, and I share it with you because I love you. And I think that that's certainly something that feels very grandma-ish, and I like the way that they work that into this movie.
Definitely. Definitely. I got oven cleaner all over your camera so that you can't talk to your mommy over video, but here, I made you some bread pudding.
Right.
But here, I made you some bread pudding. That makes it all better, right?
Thanks, Nana.
Oh, guys, are we ready to dish some plugs? What do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's plug it up. All right, awesome. Jim, what have you got this week?
So I was going to plug, I was hoping to plug today a new trailer that was supposed to drop today, but I guess it's going to drop tomorrow. And that's
so frustrating.
And that's for Disney's live-action Jungle Book. Directed by Jon Favreau, voices Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. There's been a couple of there was a teaser clip put out just showing backgrounds and stuff, and it looked really awesome. So yeah, look for that tomorrow. Disney's live-action Jungle Book trailer. If you're the sort who does watch trailers, some people don't, and that's cool. But I'm in the middle of so many things right now. I'm in the middle of I'm almost done with Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, that movie is fucking 4 hours long. So I think I'm in the last hour finally. I'm in the middle of a trilogy of movies called the Three Colors trilogy by Krzysztof Kieslowski. Pretty awesome movie so far. The first one is it's the Three Colors trilogy. It's blue, white, and red. Those are the names of the movies. The first movie is about loss. The second movie is about redemption or togetherness, and the third movie is about romance. Those are really cool movies. I'm really enjoying those. But the movie I want to plug, Brad, unless you were going to plug this one, is a movie we kind of skipped over on this podcast, but we went to see it last week, right after the day after the podcast, I think. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. We didn't get to review. I don't know, Will, if you got to see that one at all.
I passed.
I was kind of thinking, oh boy, seen so many spy movies. This one, doesn't look that great from the trailers, but I actually kind of enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a little bit different take on the spy movie. Definitely very retro, because it is set in the 60s, I think. And it's really cool. It really reminded me of one of those classic Bond movies. And the characterizations by Arnie Hammer and help me out, Brad, Superman. Henry Cavill. I thought were really good. So I would recommend, if you still haven't caught up with this one and you want to see a good spy movie, maybe to prime you for Spectre that's coming out in a little while, see The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Awesome. Good stuff. Will, how about you?
First of all, good plug on the Three Colors. I finished Blue, and I'm working my way through the other ones. And also, Juliette Binoche is in another movie that came out this year, Clouds of Sils Maria with Kristen Stewart, which is in my top 20.
And she was in Godzilla.
Yeah. So So
Yeah.
that's a soft plug for Clouds of Sils Maria. Amazing movie. It's available on VOD, and will change your mind on Kristen Stewart if you still think of her as just the girl who's bad in Twilight. But my actual plug is going to be for a horror movie I saw over the weekend. Not a perfect horror movie, but certainly one that I enjoyed. It's this German, I believe it's German, movie called Goodnight Mommy. Or Ixe in its original language, and I butchered the pronunciation. Please excuse me on that. It's about these two kids who are in this isolated country home, and they begin to they have this resentment towards their mother, which turns into this kind of like, what's going on? Is this really happening? Is there something else happening type thing? Definitely a twist involved, so I'm trying to avoid it. But it is a very strongly atmospheric, very strong tone movie. Certainly gets uncomfortable at times, so there are certain people who I would not recommend this to. If you get squeamish, probably not for you, but if you love atmospheric horror, I think this is a solid one. I think there are certain aspects of it that I kind of saw coming a mile away, and part of that's because I see a lot of these movies, so I can't fault it too much for that. But it's really interesting. It's a really solid horror movie, and I harp a lot about how much I get frustrated by like cheap jump scares and the fact that Blumhouse makes every fucking horror movie that's out right now. So this is a great example of a movie that is different. It's not like anything else that's out there right now. It's called Goodnight Mommy. It's in limited release. It's in theaters, across the country right now. Not in all theaters, but certainly if it's playing near you and you're looking for just something that will set your nerves on edge, Goodnight Mommy, go see it.
Not to be confused with either Mommy or Goodnight Mother. This is Goodnight Mommy.
Completely different movies.
Or
Right.
Goodnight Moon, which was the book. Not a movie.
Also different.
Nice. For me this week, what have I got for plugs? I had the pleasure, speaking of Michael from Warhorse vs. War Machine, of guesting on Warhorse vs. War Machine. That episode will be coming out in a week or two. We'll keep you apprised. We review Frozen and The Gray, although I have to say I thought we were reviewing Frozen, the Do You Want to Build a Snowman movie, and it was actually the Sean Ashmore semi-indie horror movie from 2010. But really awesome discussion. Had a blast with Michael and Emily. They are fantastic. If you guys are not listening to Warhorse vs. War Machine, you definitely should check them out. But we'll post that episode when it's available. Will, I know they are anxious to have you guest as well to come on, and maybe we'll have Michael or Emily back here soon. But
that would be awesome.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So that'll be
those guys on the War Machine versus Warhorse, and they're a lot of fun.
Definitely. You gotta love some War Machine. You gotta love some Warhorse. Put them all together, right? You've got a great package. So, good stuff. We'll let you know when that episode of War Machine versus Warhorse does come out. Otherwise, for me, great. I'm looking into the future. There's going to be a great episode of Movie Bears Podcast TV this week. We're recording it tomorrow relative to when we're recording this. We'll be talking about the newest episode of Fear the Walking Dead. Will, have you been watching that show at all yet?
No, I haven't, and I should, because I live listened to you guys' episode last week, and you guys were. I'm not someone who likes the regular Walking Dead show, but kind of what you guys were telling me about the Fear the Walking Dead made me think that maybe that's going to be a little more up my alley. So I unfortunately I hit the festival over the weekend and wasn't able to get caught up, but it is on my list to watch.
Well, you'll have to let us know what you think, because we've been a little curious. We're waiting with bated breath, Will Lindis. So check out at least the first 2 episodes and tell us what you think. But I think, guys, that wraps us for this week. Yeah, so we ready to put a little grandma bow on it and make it look all nice?
Let's take this one out to the woodshed.
Dump it in a pile.
Speaking of bows, guys, oh my gosh, so our 3rd anniversary is coming up in December, which is like 12 weeks away, 3 months away.
Oh, it's right around the corner away, is what that is.
Yeah, totally. So that's kind of crazy. Looking forward to that. But that means Christmas is right around the corner too, which means Oscar season is about to kick into high gear. Oh my God, I can't wait. Once they finally start coming out. That would be great. But in the meantime, we'll figure out what we're going to do for next week. I don't know what it is at this point.
It's a movie starting up again.
I know. Yep. We're starting to come out of that hole, but we'll see what it is. Anyway. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
All right. Goodbye.
See you later.